All right, y'all, so watch me take my steering wheel from this to this with these anodized red shift paddles for your Gen 1 Raptor or for your Gen 12 F150. Let's go. Guess what, folks? We've got parts in, and this is going to be a fun one because I'm doing some fabrication. Courtesy of Frostbite Fabrications, we have got the paddle shifter version 2 anodized red that is going to be going on to my EcoBoost steering wheel. Actually, it's my Raptor style EcoBoost steering wheel for my Gen 12. That's my 2013 F150. And we are going to be installing the paddle shifters today. Let's gather our parts and let's get this build going. It's gonna be fun. All right, so your kit's gonna come with everything that you see here, all right? You got your wiring harness, you got your paddle shifters, and you've got your hardware up here. All right, you got some lag bolts, you got some crimpers, some wire splicers, some zip ties. You got all your good stuff in there. And your tools list is actually pretty simple. You're gonna need a 3/16 drill, you're gonna need a 1/4 inch, you're gonna need a 5/16, and he also suggests using a smaller drill bit so you can start your guide holes, all right? Shout out to Luke Gerard. You can find him on YouTube. That's Luke, last name Gerard. And he actually fabricates these in his garage or wherever it is that he does them. And honestly, I'm very, very happy with the quality. All right, pretty good haptic feedback. They feel pretty snappy. They absolutely got some weight to them. Feel great in the hand, honestly. And I had to get that anodized red because that's an accent color inside my truck. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this build. So first things first is I'm marking my edges because manufacturer suggests that you want to mount your brackets about 1 inch from this top edge here. So the top edge of my tape that I put here is basically marking my 1 inch from the edge. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of spot it. So I'll show you guys how I plan on doing that. And just to show you guys, I mark both sides. All right, next step. With maintaining your orientation, which, I mean, it happens to everybody, because when I had the wheel facing the other way, I'm like, okay, which one's gonna be my left, which one's gonna be my right? So if you face the steering wheel, well, with 12 o'clock facing down towards you, then that'll help you kind of maintain your orientation so you'll know your positive is gonna be on this side, that's gonna be your upshifting, and this is gonna be your downshifting. Now, when I was talking about spotting my edge, this is what I meant, because I couldn't understand whether or not he meant to spot that 1 inch edge at where your screw is going to be at, or if it was where the edge of your shifter is going to be at. So when I'm spotting this, basically, let's just say I decided I wanted to go ahead and put where my latch screw is going to go at that 1 inch mark. What I'm wanting to figure out is, does this allow me to have the visibility that I'm looking for when it comes to my paddle shifters? And here's what I mean by that. This is what I mean by that. It's all about the aesthetics, okay? Now, this is where you want to make sure you get your measurements down right, because obviously, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm an aesthetics person. And when I'm driving, I want to be able to see my shift paddles, okay? Because I do have an AMG and I can see my shift paddles when I'm driving on the road. Like, I mean, sometimes I play with it, sometimes I don't. The car is fast, whether I'm in manual or automatic, but I mean, it's like, you got them on there. You don't want them to be hidden behind. I mean, it's like, yeah, you know they're there, but you know, you just want to make sure that you're spotting them. Number one, in a place that ergonomically works for you, because I got pretty big hands, so my reach is going to be farther than the average person's. So for me, I won't even have to rock my thumb when it comes to reaching for the paddle. So I just want to make sure that aesthetically, I want to make sure that they're visible. So I'm going to play around with the placement for a little while, and I might even show you guys how they're set up currently in my AMG. So about here is what I'm thinking ergonomically and aesthetically is what's going to work for me. I've actually got the guide screw hole just at the top of the edge of the tape, and the paddle, as you can see, is visible just inside of the steering wheel if you're looking at it straight on. So I'm gonna press it on here real hard, make sure I make an impression, and then I'll work on the other side. And all I'm doing here is just making a little bit of imprint so I know where I made my impressions at. Not going too deep, just scratching the surface just a little bit, okay? So to spare yourself doing double the duty, really all you gotta do is just grab your ruler, come on over here, and you can measure out where your holes are at. And then basically take those measurements and take them right on over here to the other side and mark your holes out the same way. And you don't have to go through all that repositioning like I was doing. So that's what we're about to do. All right, now that I've got my holes spotted on both sides, as you can see here, now we get into the fun part. All right, so next thing that we got coming up here is we are only gonna drill in maybe about that much with our 5/16, okay? This is so that we can create a guide hole, and that's gonna be for this node right here. Then I'm gonna switch it out to a smaller drill so I can drill out a guide hole for this node right here. And that'll be the lower hole that's right here. And then once I have these two drilled out, I'll press it back in again so that I can make smaller guide holes for these other two nodes right here, okay? Be right back. All right, got my two guide holes here. Got them on the other side. Now we're gonna go ahead and put this on here, make another impression, and then get my two smaller holes. All right, so here we are real quick. We have got our guide holes. We have got our 1/4 inch holes drilled all the way through. This one, as you can see, is bored just a little bit bigger so that the node that's on the bottom here can nestle down in there so that it can catch the slag screw. One thing that I'm already going to tell you that's going to kind of suck is when it comes to drilling these two holes, again, you're drilling at an angle, so you want to be mindful of that you don't end up encroaching on your first hole that you drilled, because I've done it over on this side and I definitely ended up catching my other hole, but hopefully we'll be good. Go ahead and thread your wires through because you got to do two holes all the way through. And then we're going to go ahead and nestle this up and catch it with our screw. All right, so fast forward just a little bit. One thing I absolutely, so just catching you guys up a little bit with where we are at. Got the screws in there. You're gonna have to apply pressure because you want to get through that foam and you also want to get through that plastic, but you also want to keep in mind that you are screwing into plastic. So while you are applying pressure, you also want to make sure you don't go too hard because they will strip out. So I got those in there. They didn't see as flush as I was hoping they would, but that's also because I didn't make the holes too big because I just didn't want to get too aggressive with my drilling. But I mean, nobody's gonna see that. But they definitely are working the way they're supposed to. I might tighten that one up just a little bit more. Next, we're gonna get these wired up and then we'll get them into our harness. All right, so one of the harnesses, well, one of the pieces of the harness that was included allowed for you to be able to twist these two ground wires together and then put them into this butt connector. And then I just used my crimping tool to crimp them down. And now they're connected. And now we're gonna go ahead and get them wired into the harness. All right, so the last things that we did in here, and hopefully you guys can see this okay. All right, so what you got here is your harness. Now, I just found out, or I just realized here, that there's actually supposed to be a clip on top of this that is not there. And that's kind of got me feeling some type of way because this was a very expensive steering wheel. And yeah, so just now realizing that definitely has me pissed off, and I'm going to contact them about that and ask for some of my money back. But anyways, your downshifter. So first things first, I plugged in my the upshifter, and that literally went into the empty slot right next to this red wire here, which I think is for the it's for the airbag. So plug that in there, and then directly beneath it, I plugged in the brown wire, and that's for the downshifter. And then directly next to it is where I plugged in the 2 grounds. And that's it. It's the steering wheel's now done. Basically, I would reinstall this now. Tuck these wires in, put the middle part back in, and then bolt it back up. So yeah, that's done. Next will be the wiring of the harness itself underneath the gear selector.